Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for joining us. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Terry Koehler, a golf industry entrepreneur. Terry, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Hall.
Well, you've been in the industry for quite a few years, starting up many companies, mostly in the golf space, and wanted to hear about your experiences and what led you into that role. What did you do before that, and what led you into the role you are in today?
Well, a little background. I got involved in the golf industry, nearly 40 years ago. I was in my late 20s, and I was in the advertising world and started working with golf accounts. And my inquisitive mind led me into developing my own golf club designs and my own marketing philosophies. And so I started my first golf company back in the mid-90s. I had been with the Ben Hogan Company as they moved from Texas to Virginia. And along about the mid-90s, I decided to do something on my own. And that was my first foray into private capital, having no coaching and guidance and counseling with wonderful people like yourself. It was, you've probably heard that story many times. It was just dive into the water and see if you can swim.
What did you like about the golf industry? What attracted you into be there for so long?
Well, I grew up with the game. I know the game very well. Because of that, I spent a disproportionate probably amount of time studying the industry and the consumers. And I think that any entrepreneur, to me, you have to dive into things that, A, you can be really passionate about, which I'm very passionate about golf and the industry. And so you're always driven by that passion and also by your aptitude. I mean, I feel like I have a really solid intuition about golf consumers, about the golf industry, about the distribution network. So, yeah, I guess my first kind of advice to any entrepreneur is find out something that will lure you into working 10, 15-hour days and 70-hour weeks and just give it everything you've got. And the golf industry does that for me. I also have some little things going in the outdoors field because I'm also an avid hunter and fisherman. So again, I think passion drives everything. And golf does that for me.
So in those companies you started in that industry, you raised funding for a lot of them. What were some of your experiences in raising funding for a golf-focused company?
Well, the negative side, golf gets a lot of bad press, but golf is really extremely stable. The reported booms have been a little overblown. The reported busts have been very definitely overblown. Golf is just a very stable, very niche boutique sport. Got 12 to 15 million really core avid participants. That number has been pretty stable for years. There are 8 or 10 million that flit in and out annually that are enamored with golf, find it too difficult or whatever. But golf drives a multi-billion-dollar industry. Its practitioners have time, they have money. We're growing older. You run into investors that are not passionate about golf, and if they're not knowledgeable and passionate, they probably should stay out of it because it's a very quirky little industry that's not big by any means compared to tech or medical or whatever, but it's pretty predictable. Golfers are pretty predictable consumers as to what they're going to do and why they're going to do it. So from an investor standpoint, if you have an interest in golf and think it'll be a fun part of your portfolio, I think golf startups the industry has been pretty friendly to well-run, well-thought-out startups. If you wake up every day and know that's what you are, go tackle the giants. It's not like some guy starting a computer company in his basement and his dorm room and taking on Hewlett-Packard. That was pretty amazing, but that's pretty hard to do. So.
Well, every sector has its challenges, whether it be fintech or sports tech or what have you. What are the specific challenges in raising funding or building a company in the golf industry that's unique to golf itself?
I don't know that there are too many that are unique to golf. I think in any consumer product, you have your distribution challenges of getting into established distribution or finding a way around that, which is kind of my preferred way to go. Raising your funding. Golf is pretty easy to find contract assemblers, contract manufacturers in golf equipment, the space that we're in. Tooling and inventory controls management can be a challenge. We've taken some very creative approaches to that, particularly in a new thing I'm working on that we can talk about later. But just knowing who you are when you wake up every day, knowing every sale is important, every customer is important, and really learning about the people that are buying your product and learning how you can leverage them through the funnel of awareness to transaction to advocacy. And that you need to create advocates out of every customer. You have to focus on every one of them. And I don't think that's specific to golf. I think that's in any, particularly luxury durable goods, which is what golf clubs are. They're a big investment meant to last a while.
Well, you mentioned some of the investor misperceptions about the boom and bust of the golf industry, but aside from that, what other misimpressions do you find investors have about the golf industry that you have to kind of self-correct?
Well, one of the ones that you run into all the time is an investor will say, well, let me go talk to my golf professional. I mean, that's his local expert, right? Well, any golf professional has a relatively myopic view of the industry because he deals with his small little universe of golfers. And so it's frustrating for me because, with all due respect, sir, your golf professional is not an industry expert, but he probably is an expert on his 500 members or whatever, if he's a good one. So that's kind of frustrating of who your potential investor might turn to for their own expert. That's kind of frustrating. You know, I've studied the industry on an international level for 40 years, and I've got this investor that's curious, but he's going to go talk to his golf pro that's been at 2 clubs in his life. And I hate to sound cynical, but it's kind of frustrating. So,
well, I've seen a number of golf deals come through the angel networks and the deal flow I see. And one of the conceptions I hear from investors is, oh, they're selling to golfers. They're well-to-do. They have lots of money. So sales must be easy and there must be a lot of cash flowing around. What's your take on that impression some investors have about the space?
Well, golfers are, and I think probably any special interest category, the consumers tend to be pretty aggressive. You know, I'm also a fisherman and a shotgunner, and we love our toys, and golf is that way. And there's always an emotional reason to want something new. Golf also comes at you with performance reasons to buy something new. That driver is longer. This putter will make more putts. That ball goes further. So golf has a very interesting kind of profile of its consumers. You have about 1 million consumers that are innovators and early adopters. I mean, they're fast to the cash register when something new comes out. But the bulk of golfers are more pragmatic than that. And so they watch their friends, which are the number one influences, are your friends. So you watch your friend with his new driver, and if that new driver or new putter or new set of irons doesn't stay in the bag for a season, then that guy has to start his validation process all over again with the next new one that you bought. So these 1 million or so really aggressive consumers are kind of the Jekyll and Hyde of our industry, because while they come to the cash register quickly, they also force many companies into short product life cycles. And golfers are just more, the bulk of golfers are more pragmatic than that. So I'm a little more of a pragmatist myself. I think the game appeals to pragmatic people because it certainly doesn't give you immediate gratification. So it appeals to that more pragmatic personality profile. So I think the key for a young company is don't think you have to play short life cycles with the big boys. You just keep doing what you do, building a user base. And one of the things that I'm a firm believer in, if you're in my space and probably in just about any product space, if you're a startup company, your product better be the king. Your product better win in a head-to-head comparison, because new customers are hard and expensive to come by, and you need every one of them to become an advocate for you. And they won't become an advocate if the product doesn't just really perform. I've been very blessed that I've been able to produce, and primarily in wedge products, which is kind of my specialty, products that head-to-head I'm going to win against the competition, and we're going to do it again because I've studied the golfer and his wedges probably as much or more than anybody.
What do you say are the top areas of innovation, or what can a new company do to disrupt this space? Where are the spaces or the opportunities you think a new person can make given the current landscape of the industry?
Well, I'm focused on the wedge category because and without getting too golf geeky on you, the wedge category is the one category in equipment that's not had a technological upheaval yet. I mean, drivers and irons and golf balls and shoes and all the other product categories have had a technological upheaval, or more than one, over the last 25 or 40 years. And wedges still bear a striking resemblance to what's before. So what we're doing is challenging the status quo in the performance you get out of wedges, the way they're made. We're going into additive manufacturing and doing some really cool things inside the golf club, which nobody's ever done in wedges. And through that, we're going to be able to put a wedge in golfers' hands. And we're targeting the middle tier of golfers. We're not after the tour player. He's a tough customer. He doesn't want totally different wedges. He's got too many hours invested. But we're going for that recreational player that is just, that's the weakness of his game, and it's equipment driven, we believe. So I think, again, regardless of what kind of product it is, if you can put a product in that golfer's hands that from the very first few practice shots, he can have a wow factor. He sees and feels and witnesses something very different, and that's how you get his attention. And so you have to do that. And we're going to do, I've done it before, we're going to do it again.
Well, that's great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we talk about that we haven't covered so far?
Well, the thing about capital and raising capital for any new venture, one of the things, I guess there's 3 or 4 real core lessons that I've learned in my life and going through this with other people's money and all of my own. And that is, you got to be all in. That investor has to know you're all in. I'm all in. And you have to know, the biggest thing for any entrepreneur is to say, where are my biggest strengths and what are my biggest weaknesses? And I need to make sure I complement my strengths by hiring people or recruiting people into my team that are as strong where I'm weak as I am strong where they might be weak, because nobody's good at everything. And you have to have people that are great with financials. You have to have people that are great with physical operations and managing the machine every day. And you have to have people that have great vision for product and messaging. And that latter part is what I'm good at. And I think my history is I've always been not really recognizing, and that's kind of my self-deprecating comments, and not recognizing where I needed to recruit stronger. So I'm committed to that, and we've got some really good team lead people coming in, and we're looking for investors that can help us. And I think you always want to welcome your investor to make the contribution if they can. If they have great experience in operations and finance, my goodness, welcome them into your inner circle, because you're all in this together. Nobody wins unless everybody wins.
So how best for the audience to get back in touch with you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, Terry Koehler, Koehler, or they can, we don't have a website up or anything left, if they can reach back to you, and you know how to get hold of me, or they can reach me at Terry K at edisongolfco.com, edisongolfco.com. But my LinkedIn profile is always there, Terry Koehler, Koehler, and not hard to find me there.
Well, very great. We'll put that in the show notes, let people get in touch with you that way as well, and appreciate your taking time, and hope to have you back to give us a follow-up of how the industry is shaping up and how your startup is going as well. Well,
I certainly will look forward to coming back and sharing that.
Great. Appreciate your taking time, and we'll come back to you soon. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Hall.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.